Neighbor, you know how winters here in the US can feel downright brutal. Freezing temperatures, sharp winds, and days where the cold just never seems to let up. Out in the garden, that doesn't just mean bad weather. It means frozen soil, cracked pots, and roots quietly dying long before spring ever arrives. And if you've ever stepped outside in December, touched one of your pots, and realized your favorite perennial didn't make it through the winter, then you clicked on the right video. Today I'm sharing 10 incredibly simple tips I've used for years. The same ones I've passed along to neighbors who were tired of losing their plants every winter. These tips are easy, logical, and made for real people with real gardens, not picture-perfect magazine yards. Now tell me, are you ready to dive into these 10 tips? All right then, let's get started. Let's begin with one of the simplest winter-saving tricks, and one borrowed straight from big nurseries: lifting your pots off the cold ground. In commercial farms, you'll almost never see containers sitting directly on concrete once winter approaches. They know concrete acts like a giant ice plate, pulling warmth downward and freezing roots from the bottom up. But here in our small backyard gardens, we can shrink that same idea into something easy and gentle. 2 bricks, a sturdy wooden plank, a pair of pot feet, even an old milk crate flipped upside down. Anything that gives your pot just an inch of lift. That tiny lift creates a warm buffer zone, keeps cold from creeping upward, and helps your soil drain instead of turning into a frozen block. You'll notice the difference: less soggy soil, fewer freeze-thaw shocks, and far healthier roots by spring. And the best part, neighbor, is that this upgrade takes less than 5 minutes. It's the kind of small habit that quickly becomes second nature once you feel how much healthier your plants stay. A tiny lift today can mean a full, vibrant pot of growth when spring arrives. Now that your pots are lifted, let's take the next step: giving them a proper winter coat. Large growers wrap their containers because they know the real damage doesn't start from the top of the soil. It starts from the sides. Cold air hits all around the pot, pulling heat out of the roots faster than most people realize. For our small gardens, the solution is simple and affordable: burlap, frost cloth, old blankets, bubble wrap. Anything soft and dry will work. Wrap the pot snugly, leave the drainage hole at the bottom open, and tie it with twine or string. Keeping the material dry is the key. Wet wrapping freezes and becomes a cold trap. If you live in a colder zone, adding a second layer makes a big difference. This soft barrier keeps the soil stable, protects fine roots, and helps your plant sleep peacefully through winter. It's a small effort that pays off through every cold night of the season. Once you've done it once, you'll wonder why you ever left your pots bare before. Your plants will feel the difference long before you even see the new spring growth. Next, let's borrow another smart trick from commercial growers: keeping pots close together so they can protect each other. In big nurseries, containers are never left standing alone in winter. They're grouped tightly in long rows because growers know that a single pot loses heat fast, but a cluster creates its own warm pocket of air. For our backyard gardens, the same idea works beautifully. Move your pots to a sheltered spot, near a south-facing wall, beside a wooden fence, under an overhang, or next to a shed. Walls absorb heat during the day and release it slowly through the night, giving your plants a few extra degrees of warmth when it matters most. Then push the pots snugly together, tall ones in the back, shorter ones in front. This helps block wind, reduces temperature swings, and keeps the pots from tipping over in strong gusts. A simple huddle, neighbor, but one that can save your plants all winter long. Even a small shift of a few feet into a sheltered corner can dramatically improve survival rates. Think of it as letting your plants share body heat, just like we do on cold days. When they stand together, they stand stronger. Now let's move to a tip most gardeners never expect: watering before a freeze. It sounds backward, but big nurseries have used this method for decades because slightly moist soil holds warmth longer than dry soil. Dry soil has more air pockets, which freeze quickly and allow the cold to penetrate straight into the root zone. In our small gardens, this trick is incredibly simple. When the forecast shows a drop below freezing within 24-48 hours, give your pots a deep watering in the morning, not at night. Morning gives the soil time to drain so it doesn't turn into an ice block. You're aiming for moist, not soaked. This slows the freezing process, protects fine roots, and prevents the soil from shrinking and pulling away from the sides of the pot. Sometimes, neighbor, a cup of water at the right moment can save a whole plant. It's a habit that takes less than a minute but can save you months of regrowth in spring. Once you've tried it, you'll see how much calmer your winter care routine feels. A little moisture at the right time truly goes a long way. The next trick is one of my favorites: creating a simple double wall pot system. Large growers use insulated containers, but we can recreate the same effect with things we already have at home. All you do is place your plant's pot inside a slightly larger one and fill the space between them with dry leaves, straw, pine needles, or even shredded paper. This creates a natural insulation layer that keeps the root zone warmer and dramatically slows heat loss. It's like giving your pot a cozy winter jacket made entirely of free materials. This method works especially well for small pots, which lose heat the fastest. And if you live in colder zones, combining this with a top mulch layer makes the whole setup even more effective. It's simple. 2 pots, a handful of leaves, and your plant suddenly has double the protection. It's one of those tricks that feels almost too easy until you see how well it works. Even your most sensitive plants get a surprising boost in warmth. Try it once and it'll become a winter habit you never skip. Let's continue with a technique inspired by how big farms protect their soil: adding a protective blanket on top. On large fields, growers use straw or plant residue to keep the soil from losing heat too quickly. In small containers, we can do the same thing, just on a softer scale. Cover the surface of your pot with 1 to 2 inches of dry leaves, pine bark, shredded wood, or even small pine cones. This layer traps warmth, slows temperature swings, and prevents the soil from drying out during cold winds. It's especially helpful for perennials with shallow roots, which can suffer the most during sudden freezes. And because the materials are natural, they break down slowly and enrich the soil by spring. This is one of those tiny steps that makes winter care feel calmer and easier. A simple blanket for the soil that helps your plant rest safely until warmer days return. Little details like this often make the biggest difference when temperatures drop suddenly. Instead of panicking during surprise cold snaps, you'll feel prepared, and your plants will reward you with stronger, fuller growth when the season turns warm again. Let's keep going with something many gardeners overlook: the pot itself. On big farms and in commercial nurseries, containers are chosen for durability, not just appearance. They know that terracotta and thin ceramic pots absorb moisture, and when that moisture freezes, the pot cracks. And once the pot cracks, the cold rushes straight to the roots. For our small gardens, choosing the right pot can be the difference between a plant that survives and one that doesn't. Thick plastic, fiberglass, composite, or double-walled planters hold up far better in winter. They don't absorb water, they don't shatter, and they keep the root zone more stable. If you love your terracotta pots, you can still use them. Just keep them dry, wrap them well, or move them under a covered area to prevent moisture from freezing inside the walls. A sturdy pot acts like a winter jacket. Protect the container, and you protect the roots. It's a small investment that saves you heartache later. One cracked pot can mean losing a plant you've loved for years. Choosing wisely now keeps your garden thriving through every cold season ahead. Another powerful technique used in professional growing operations is taking advantage of microclimates: small pockets of warmth created by walls, overhangs, or sheltered corners. Large nurseries arrange their most sensitive plants near structures that absorb heat during the day and release it slowly at night. In our backyard gardens, this works beautifully. A south-facing wall, a corner near the garage, under a covered patio, beside a fence, or even near a compost bin can raise temperatures by several degrees. That small difference can prevent roots from freezing solid. If lifting pots is difficult, don't worry. You can build a microclimate around them instead. Straw bales, unused bags of soil, pallets, or evergreen branches can act as windbreaks. Blocking cold wind is half the battle. The goal isn't to make your garden warm, it's to make it stable. Stability is what keeps roots alive through the freeze-thaw cycle. Once you learn to spot these warm pockets, winter gardening becomes far less stressful. You'll start noticing which corners stay warmer after sunset or which walls hold heat longer. And soon, placing your pots becomes an intentional, strategic part of your winter routine. As winter ends, there's one hidden danger big farms prepare for every year: false spring. A warm week arrives, temperatures rise into the 50s or 60s, and plants begin to wake up, only to be hit by another frost. Large growers keep their containers insulated longer to prevent early bud break. For small gardens, this is just as important. If you see new shoots forming too early, don't rush to unwrap the pot or expose it fully to warm days. Loosen the wrapping during the afternoon if you want, but cover it again at night until temperatures stay consistently above 40-degree Fahrenheit. Also avoid fertilizing during early warm spells. Feeding encourages soft new growth that freezes instantly in the next cold snap. Your goal is to slow the plant down, not speed it up. A gentle, steady transition keeps the roots strong and prevents the plant from wasting energy too early. This patience pays off, neighbor. Giving your plant a little extra protection in late winter can prevent weeks of damage control in early spring. Slow and steady always wins when the weather can't make up its mind. Before winter settles in fully, there's one last technique that big growers use to give their container plants the best chance of survival: refreshing the root zone. Professional nurseries lightly loosen compacted roots and top off the soil before the cold arrives, making sure the plant has room to rest and breathe during dormancy. In our small gardens, we can do the same thing, gently and simply. Tilt the pot slightly and check the drainage holes. If roots are circling or packed tightly, use your fingers to loosen them just a bit. Not a full repot, just enough to relieve pressure. Then add a thin layer of compost, worm castings, or fresh potting mix on top. This improves soil structure, supports moisture control, and gives the plant a soft, nutrient-rich bed for winter. Think of it like fluffing a pillow before sleep. A few minutes of care now sets the stage for strong, healthy growth when spring returns. It's a quiet kind of preparation that your plant will truly appreciate. Winter is hard enough. Giving the roots some breathing room makes all the difference. When spring warmth arrives, your plant will wake up ready instead of struggling to recover. Before we jump into this final tip, neighbor, let me remind you, and if you haven't watched my compost tutorial yet, you might want to check it out. In that video, I showed step-by-step how to make rich, healthy compost from simple kitchen scraps and dry leaves. And trust me, that homemade compost is exactly what you need for this last winter trick. Now for the tip: adding a thin compost layer before winter hits. Big growers do this every year because compost works like a soft winter blanket. It insulates the soil, feeds the plant slowly, and protects shallow roots from freeze-thaw damage. Just sprinkle a 1-inch layer of compost, worm castings, or aged mulch on top of your pot. Smooth it gently with your hand. No covering, no extra steps. A small handful of compost now creates months of warmth, stability, and quiet nourishment through the coldest part of winter. It's one of the easiest habits to build into your winter routine. And because compost improves soil over time, each winter becomes a little easier than the last. Your plants will head into spring stronger, richer, and ready to grow. And before we wrap up, I want to share one last thing: a simple season timeline that makes winter care feel calmer and more predictable. Winter doesn't arrive all at once. It comes in gentle waves: a cool whisper in late fall, a deep freeze in midwinter, a warm tease that tricks your plants, and finally the slow slide toward spring. If you follow these waves, your potted perennials have a far better chance of surviving the cold. Before the first frost, lift your pots, wrap them, refresh the soil, and move them somewhere sheltered. When the deep freeze hits, focus on stability. Check the soil every 10-14 days and keep the pots dry and steady. Then comes false spring, that warm week when plants try to wake early. Don't let them. Loosen the wrap by day, cover again at night. And as winter fades, protect new shoots until nights stay above 40-degree walkings. Follow this rhythm, neighbor, and winter becomes a partner, not a battle. And if you've made it this far, I want to thank you for spending a quiet moment in the garden with me today. Every tip you heard, every lift, every wrap, every tiny adjustment comes from years of trial, error, and lessons learned through real winters, not magazine gardens. And if even one of these ideas helps your plant stay alive, stay warm, or simply makes your winter feel less overwhelming, then I'm truly glad we shared this time together. Before you head out to your own backyard, remember this: you're not gardening alone. I'm right here with you, season after season, bringing back everything I learned so you don't have to struggle through the cold on your own. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I've got plenty more simple, senior-friendly gardening secrets coming your way.